Patty. What's up? What's up? What's up? Quit cleaning yourself. Quit that. Ugh. Okay, baby. Man's David is freaking high. It's like 5 feet tall, isn't it? It's not very comfortable. I have to tweak it a little bit. Still not that comfortable yet. Whew. Getting hot in here. Okay, Patty, you're still over, sweetheart. It's okay. Patty! Here's Caesar. Caesar! Okay, Patty, we could go over here. Just don't get all up in my face. Come here, baby. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, see, I gotta write these down, otherwise I just gotta write one little word of my experience down. Just one little word, so then I can just get it from my memory bank. Okay, I don't know. And that one I still need to talk about. I haven't talked about it yet. I guess I'll talk about, let's see, what did I have yesterday? Oh, I'll talk about a couple like virtual reality experiences that I had in the past couple of days. They were virtual reality experiences, but kind of more in a deeper, altered state. Okay, so the one I had, I can't remember if it was yesterday morning or the morning before, but it was, oh, probably because I knew we were supposed to get snow and rain and stuff, and so let's see. So I woke up, well, this is all under altered state. I was sleeping back there, and I woke up, of course it was all under altered state, and I came into the living room, and well, my living room, it was 3 times bigger, maybe 4 times bigger. You know, this area was 4 times bigger in my altered state. Hey, you're Patty. And it was like all the way from here, you know, just this whole little square. And I looked down, and like I knew it was supposed to snow and rain and stuff, so I guess that's what triggered it. That's why the aliens created it or whatever. And the water seeped in like this much. It was this deep. It was like this deep, like all around, starting from there all the way to like there. This whole little square. And well, the funny thing was that, yeah, it's kind of funny, but the whole puddle of water, it wasn't on the inner part of the living room. It was just on, it's kind of weird because there's no way it could happen like that. But the aliens are funny. Yeah, so it was just like this much water, like, was seeping in, you know. And the aliens probably copied that because I had been thinking about an ex-friend who had a house in Austin, and the back room that they built onto, the living room or whatever, they built onto this room, and she's in a flood zone, so sometimes her back room does get like, you know, this much water in it. Sometimes. So anyway, I think that's what triggered it. But anyway, my mom was over here. This is all under altered state. After I saw all the water, like all the way, you know, from there to, you know, this much or this much. I was like hollering at my mom. I was like, I'm gonna have to put my house up for sale because I'm not living in this crap, you know, if it's gonna leak like this. So I was hollering at her about that because she was like off in there somewhere in the hallway. And so that was one virtual reality experience I had. And then a couple days or maybe a week previous to that, I can't remember the exact date. I'm not sure what triggered this, but the aliens are always giving me virtual reality experiences that people are breaking in that back door. And so the experience just kind of went down like this. Like, I woke up, but I was under altered state. And then my whole door was just like... Well, anyway, somehow I knew that the intruders, they invaded that house and my house, but they did not do any other house. For some reason, they just did my house and then the neighbor's house over there. And they didn't go on down. It was just mine and theirs. But I woke up, this is all under altered state, so I woke up, but the weird thing was that, that door isn't like wood, it's like metal. But in my scenario, when I saw that the door was, oh my God, it wasn't just the door busted down, it was like the whole 3 feet to the left, 3 or 4 feet to the left, 3 or 4 feet to the right, was all just like twigs, not twigs, just skinny 2x4s just laying down. And, it's like the door was like wood or something, and it was just all in pieces, like 2x4s. Like these kind of boards, skinny boards. Like 7 feet by a few inches. They were just like laid down like that. That whole, 4, 8, 12, not 12 foot, 8 foot area or whatever of wall right there was just all torn down. And somehow I knew, I was scared that the intruders, I didn't see the intruders, but I was scared that they were going to come back in my house because the door was already mowed over, you know what I'm saying? But that was one, but yeah, for some reason, under my altered state or whatever, they just hit, oh yeah, the other part was, I got my baby turtle all disturbed. Wait, you do a reptilia? Oh yeah, see, I forgot. The other part of the scenario was, too, I somehow went to the garage, the front of the garage, and this was the other part of the scenario. I went to the front of the garage, and my cats, and this, my garage was like bigger, it was more cluttery, it was bigger, and the cats kept trying to get out. And this is all virtual reality. The cats, it was like Cesar, Patty, they were trying to get out, and I kept trying to put them back in there and like lower the door, and then they kept trying to get out, and then I kept trying to put them back in there, and over at the side of the garage door, there was like this big old gap, like this big, and they kept getting out, and I kept trying to like lower the door, try to get them back in there. That was the other part of the scenario. But yeah, so that was 2 little virtual reality experiences that I had. And okay, let's see. Oh yeah, another thing the aliens like to do, they like to they'll give me this big long, virtual reality scenario, OBE lucid dream or whatever, and or they'll put me in a mansion, and then at some point during the experience, it's like I know I'm creeped out about going down into the basement, but I know that I'm going to go down there, and eventually I go down there, and sometimes it'll just be like completely, it'll be like huge. The basement will be huge. Sometimes it'll be just completely like nothing in there. It'll be like all white paint and everything. It'll just be all white and like super huge basement. But lots of times I would be creeped out in the scenario. They've done that time and time again. They put me down, they make me go down in basements under my scenarios. And I guess that's because, when I was younger, I was raised in a house with a creepy ass basement. And sometimes, yeah, I would be scared. Like at nighttime, I guess I would go snooping around my brother's room because his room was down in the basement. And when nobody was looking or whatever, sometimes I would go down there and snoop around. But sometimes it would be, nighttime or whatever. And I'd always be creeped out and stuff. But also, back, when we were little, my brother said he's heard steps walking down into the basement. Well, you know who that is. That's probably aliens. Steps, he would hear footsteps walking down into the basement. And there was another time, I think he said one of the friends was over. His friend, something about, he went up, the door was unlocked or something, and then he went back up the steps and it was locked. I don't know, something about that. His friend was over or something. But yeah, they do like to screw around with locks, but that's not spirits or ghosts. That's aliens. I don't know. I guess I probably do believe in ghosts. I don't know. I don't know because once you already think they're ghosts and spirits, then doing things, then automatically the aliens know that you think it's ghosts and spirits, so they like to come and mock. So I don't know. I don't even know if I believe in ghosts or whatever. And spirits don't really exist because they're what do you call it? They are inaccessible in this dimension. You can't really access spirits. Well, I guess unless they decided to go to the fourth dimension or whatever, or fifth dimension, but you know, if they're way beyond that, they're inaccessible. That Peggy Kane was right about that. She made a comment about that, about how spirits are not accessible, and she's so right about that. And so anyway, if you automatically think, oh, these people died here, you know, or your dad just died here, and you automatically think he's a ghost or a spirit, then, well, that's when the aliens come and start mocking and doing things, and then naturally you're going to think, oh, that's my dad, or that's my uncle, or whatever. But, yeah, so, what was I talking about? Basements? Yeah, so anyway, but sometimes I'm so excited to go down into the basement. Like that one scenario I had several months ago. I went down into a basement, and it was in conjunction with another. I think I was in a big mansion or whatever, but it was in conjunction with that. So then I went down to the basement. And by the way, many times I'll be like, okay, when I'm in the scenario, I'll be like, okay, I've been down in this basement, 5-6 other times. And then when I wake up, I'll be thinking, like, that's true. I know they've given me that exact same scenario or 90% duplicate before. And so anyway, that one experience, I went down into the basement, and the previous people, it was a pretty big basement, but there was this big closet right in the middle of the basement. And the previous people, it was like a mother and daughter, they left everything in that closet. And it was a pretty, big closet, wide, pretty long. And so I went in there, and there was nothing but, like girl clothes, toys and stuffed animals and stuff. And I was just like, wow. Oh, that was that scenario where I think I had actually bought the mansion or something. This is under the scenario. And anyway, but I knew that was all my stuff now because they left it. And so anyway, yeah, so sometimes they make me like all excited and stuff. But I mean, it was all like girl clothes and stuff like that, and toys and stuffed animals. And but still yet I knew that I would be able to wear them and everything. And that was one of my scenarios or whatever about basements, but they love putting me in basements. But this other one I had a week ago, where they put me down into a basement. But this time, okay, it started like this. It was like me. This was like a really kind of quick experience. It was me, my sister, like 3 other people. The scenario started where we were in like a mansion, but I don't know what mansion we were in. And we were walking. It's like me, my sister, 3 or 4 other people, but I can't remember who they were, but I know it seemed like a couple of them were my sister's friends. A couple of them were males and a couple like females. So we were walking along, and we were like, okay, we walked down some steps, and we were like, okay, we were excited about going down into the basement to check it out. So we went down into the basement, and so I started, walking around clockwise, and to the left, this is so funny. I saw, the pile was, like I say, the pile was about as big as this part of the living room right here. It was like a huge pile. But it's funny, I looked over there, because that's where I started, and the pile was all this, like, what do you call it? Pool toys, like blow-up pool toys. Like rafts and, like, balls, like beach balls. And it was just a big old pile. And I was thinking, that was there the last time we came down here. That same pile was there the last time I went down there. And, this is all into the scenario. Altered state. And then, so I went around a little more, and I looked down, and, sitting there was this, record player. It was an old-fashioned record player that was this big. It was a record player, like, one of those old, fashioned, that played those big old records. I forgot what they're called. 45, 82, something like that. And, it was plastic, and the top was, what do you call that? Was, like, kind of, what do you call it? Tinted. Kind of like a light brown, what's that color called? I don't know, reddish, brownish. It was like the cover was plastic, and it was, like I say, it was kind of like, it wasn't transparent 100%. It had that, what did I just call it? It had that color in it, that brownish color in the plastic. It was tinted, like it was tinted. And then you lifted it up, and there would be the record, the black record. But I think my mom has a record player like that, or she used to. It was her or my sister. I'll have to ask her, because I'm pretty sure my mom had a record player like that. But I haven't thought about it in millions of years, so it's funny the aliens would take that part in my brain or whatever. Because I haven't thought about it, but it doesn't matter. They can still go into your brain and get details for your scenario. Okay, but that was kind of cool, the record player. But like I said, I'm going to have to ask my mom, because I'm pretty sure she has that record player. With that tinted plastic brown tint, reddish brown tint or whatever. But more brown than red. And so I was looking at that. And, okay, so anyway, I walked around, and then I saw some more things, and see, because I waited too long, and I didn't jot down, I forgot some of the other stuff that I saw. But it was pretty cluttery. The basement was pretty cluttery, and there was a bunch of other more stuff, but I had forgotten because I drag ass and wait too long, and then I forget details. But I try not to wait so long, But then it went off into this other little scenario that I walked into. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a house. I don't know if it was a cabin. I don't know. I don't know if it was just kind of separate from this scenario or part of the same one. But then I walked into this other little room. But it seemed like it was a separate scenario. And there was this big, and I was just like looking, I'm like, wow. There was this big, huge, like, dresser. Well, I don't know what else to call it. I guess I'd call it a dresser, but it was pretty, long. It was about as big as like a, it was probably like 3.5 feet tall, about as wide as a twin bed. I mean, as long as a twin bed, and maybe a little wider than the twin bed. But it was like wood. Like, I don't know what kind of wood you would call it. I don't know if you'd call it cedar or maybe cherry wood or whatever. But, I mean, and I was just kind of looking at all the little intricate details. And somebody had handmade, or somebody had basically carved, like handmade, carved little intricate details. Like there would be like a horse. It'd be all these little, little images and stuff, like a horse, like a duck or a bird or whatever. And it was just very intricate. And it was just beautiful and detailed. And the whole thing was like that. And I was just like looking. The aliens do that all the time. They give me the most intricate things in my scenarios. And I think, as far as I remember, under the scenario, I think I did think an Indian had done that. I don't know why, but I think, I could be mistaken about that though, but I think I did think that like an Indian had done that. But I don't know why I want to say that, but I could be mistaken. But yeah, it was really cool, and that was kind of part of the scenario, or at least a little separate scenario, after they put, like, me and my sister, after we, went down into this basement. But I was actually excited to go down into the basement this time around, because most of the time, I'm like, I know I'm going to have to go down into the basement, and I'm like creeped out about going down there. But this time I actually was excited. And, but when I woke up and everything, I'm not sure if they've ever given me that detail before, with the pool, all the big pile of pool items, the blow up, rubber plastic pool items. I don't think they have. I don't know if they've ever put a record player. They maybe have, but I'd have to think about it. But like they do that a lot. Like they put me down in the same basement many times on different days, different scenarios, and it'll be almost exact same basement or whatever. Okay, Patty, you're on my shit. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, we gotta hurry up because we don't want to talk forever. Okay, hold on. Okay, so pool toys, blow up, old fashioned record player, intricate carved wood, intricate carved wood dresser. I already talked about that. Creepy basement, pool toys, blow up pool toys, old fashioned record player. I already talked about that. The leak in my house, and then the other part of the scenario, where the cats kept getting out of the what do you call it? The garage. Oh, but this other one I had, this was just like, when was it? This was probably, what is this, Monday? Friday morning? Yeah, this experience was either Friday or Saturday morning. Let's see, where? Okay, and this, so it's kind of fresh in my mind, so I better go and talk about it. Okay, so, basically the aliens have given me, experiences many times. Lucid dreams, OBEs, all, virtual reality experiences, most of them. Well, this one was all of the above, OBE, virtual reality, lucid dream. This was those three things to Angie's apartment. And I did actually live there in real life for a year back a long time ago. But then Angie kept living there, so I still almost kind of lived there because I still went back and forth almost every night from my house to her apartment. And so anyway, under my altered states and stuff, the aliens have placed me in that. It's actually like a little triplex, and it was A, B, C, and we were in C. And back and soul through. Yeah, okay, so anyway, the scenario started where I was visiting her, and she was still living in that triplex. It was this very small triplex, small living room, which just kind of ran into the big, long kitchen and dining room. There wasn't like separate doors or anything. And the only other separate door was to the left was the bedroom. Straight ahead was the bathroom. And it was tiny, and the bedroom was, decent size. I don't even know how many square foot that would be, but it was pretty damn small. But the way it was laid out, it didn't seem so small. Okay, so, basically I was walking around with her, visiting her. And, at one point I did, what did I eat? I ate something with her, and I can't remember exactly what it was now. It was, I want to say some kind of meat or something. But anyway, because she was cooking, she eventually started cooking, on the stove and everything. And I remember thinking, okay, I think I'll be safe to eat this. It probably doesn't have gluten in it and blah, 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 blah. So I did actually eat with her down at the table at one point. But as I started to observe the kitchen and her bedroom, I mean, everything was like kind of cluttery, because she's always been kind of a messy, cluttery person. Everything was cluttery and stuff, but it's like everything was like in perfect, it was orderly. And I was just like, wow, she's still got a lot of shit, but everything is really orderly instead of being messy and cluttery. As I was observing her, you know, the triplex, her little apartment. And it was, yeah, this experience was awesome, because it did feel like I was in another dimension, because, you know, hence lucid dream. And but I was also out of body, and it was also virtual reality, because it feels so real. Okay, so for you know, a couple hours or whatever that went on, where I was observing, you know, all of her little things that she had in her apartment, which was a lot. Like I would go into the bathroom in real life, and like I say, the sink was very small, but I mean, all over to the left, to the right, straight ahead was nothing but bottles, 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 bottles. And I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to wet your hair and shit? You gotta knock everything over and crap. So the aliens kind of copied that. Okay, but like I said, at one point, you know, we got into the refrigerator and we started cooking, and I was eating with her, and for some reason I wasn't afraid that it wasn't. I think it was some kind of meat or something, and I knew I could go ahead and eat it because it probably wasn't gluten and stuff. So so then this is the funny part. Me and Angie, we go out the back door. Now in real life, there's no back door. But in the scenario, like, there was a back door. Me and her went out in the back door, and we were back behind. Her apartment was basically back behind a big office complex, and it was only like 10 yards away. So so me and Angie went back, and then there was grass, and then I looked up, and there was a big commercial office building. And I know the aliens copied that from my brain from this house I was looking at when I went house shopping a long time ago. And then a couple years later, they put this big ass hotel in somebody's backyard. So I know the aliens kind of copied that detail and put it in the scenario, so to speak, except in my scenario, it was a big ass office building. And so then me and Angie proceeded to go to the left. There was more office buildings over here to the left in the back of her triplex. And there was 3 trees. I went up to the first tree, I went up to a hedge apple tree. But I at first thought it was an apple tree. And I also saw tomatoes like this big on the tree. And then I walked over to another tree, and I saw like apples. And I went over there to steal some of the apples. Me and Angie did too. She stole some of the apples, and I stole some of the apples. And then we went over to another tree. It was like tree. Way over here to the left, where the big ass high-rise office building was. And it was a mango tree. And I don't remember if I took any mangoes or not, but I saw the mangoes. And mainly I wanted the apples for some reason, because I knew they would be nice and fresh and organic. Okay, so then after me and Angie started stealing the apples, but yeah, it was kind of funny because the hedge apple tree, I looked over to the right of the tree and I saw, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 big tomatoes like this big on the hedge apple tree. But like I said, at first I thought the hedge apples were apples. And then I walked over to the other tree, and by the way, they were green apples. They were those nice green apples. I don't even like apples. And so we started stealing some of the green apples. Okay, well then all of a sudden, oh, it was Saturday morning. I had that experience. Because in real life, Friday night, I went to Walmart, and I saw this one. I saw this woman. I had met up with my sister by accident. I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I think this woman kind of saw that, kind of sensed that it was kind of funny that we all of a sudden, you know, like maybe that we were related and all of a sudden met up with each other. She was kind of giggling. You know, this woman, kind of short brown hair. She seemed real nice, and she was by herself, and she kind of overheard me and my sister. So I think she kind of knew that we were related, and that, you know, like we were both surprised. Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Or whatever. Because we had been at the bookstore, but I didn't tell her I was going to Walmart, and she didn't tell me she was going to Walmart. Well, anyway, the aliens put her in my scenario as the cop, as a female cop. Okay, so anyway, so as me and Angie started stealing some of the apples, and two, by the way, it's kind of hard to explain, but in the scenario, it is kind of like, the energy was like going back in time. I never really discussed that before, but because it was almost like it wasn't present day. It was more like, you know, like 1995. You know what I'm saying? I've never really, even though I've felt that way many, many times in my scenarios, I never really said anything about that for some reason. So this was, and you know, because Angie was more like, you know, you know, well, more like, you know, 38, 40. And I was more like, you know, 12 years younger or whatever. Okay, so when we started stealing the apples, I kind of knew that we weren't supposed to, you know, because it was on public. I mean, it was on, you know, it wasn't our apples. It was on the commercial property. So this cop started coming up, which was her, by the way, that woman I talked about at Walmart. And she was, you know, decent looking, short brown hair, and she was by herself. And anyway, so she started walking up to us under the scenario in a cop uniform. And I thought she was gonna like arrest us for stealing the apples. But then all of a sudden, me and Angie and her all of a sudden became friends. And we went over, and this is kind of funny, we went over and started to sit at what almost was kind of like a little bar. Like a little outside bar. And we were sitting there in chairs. And the cop was like, I was trying to explain to her, oh, I thought those were like apples. And she's like, no, those are hedge apples. And so we started talking and having conversation like that. Me, Angie, and that woman I just told you about that was at Walmart in real life. Except in the scenario, you know, she was a cop. That, you know, the aliens put her in my scenario, and as a cop. And so I thought we were like gonna get arrested or something. I'm getting hot, man. And okay, so anyway, after we kind of started sitting down at a little bar and started talking, we didn't get any drinks or anything. They may have, but I didn't. And I just can't remember if I saw any glasses or whatever, but I remember sitting there, and it was almost like we were at a little bar. And so then all of a sudden, oh, I forgot about this part. Okay, this is funny, but I forgot about this part. I probably would have forgot if I would have waited so many more days. Then all of a sudden, my mom shows up in the scenario, and 6 other men. But this is so weird. Okay, this limousine, it was a limousine that showed up, this big old fancy limousine, but it was super wide. I mean, super long, super big. And as it showed up, and by the way, it was like, I don't know, it was like way outdated. Like, I don't know, maybe 1950s or 60s or something. Okay, so this limousine showed up over to the left of the little bar. And it was already open. And there was like 6 men, like all older men, professional looking older men. And some of them were businessmen, some of them were lawyers. And I recognized a lot of them. I'm trying to think who they were now. but I did recognize a lot of them. And it was kind of like they were like liars, like as if, because I thought the cop was going to arrest me or something. So I thought I guess my mom thought maybe I needed some lawyers or something. Oh, a matter of fact, this part I forgot about. As we were sitting there at the bars, that's when, as far as I remember, I had actually called my mom. And I can't remember if I actually picked up a cell phone or not, but I actually called my mom to tell her, that me and Angie kind of got in trouble for stealing apples. So anyway, so that's when all of a sudden this freaking old-fashioned limousine showed up, but it was very odd looking, very outdated, and it was huge. And like I say, when it showed up, it was already open. Like it was already, the doors were already, and by the way, this limousine was as wide as like what a RV or something. I mean, a limousine wouldn't really be that wide, but in the scenario, the limousine was like as wide as a big old, wide RV or something, or maybe even, as wide as an RV. And like I say, there was like 5-6 men, and it was even like they were at like there was a little desk right there. And like I say, some of them were businessmen, some of them were lawyers. And I'm trying to remember who they were now. But I did recognize some of them. And it was just people that I know, like my dad friends or something like that. The aliens put them in my scenarios as businessmen and lawyers. And I don't remember actually interacting with any of them. Actually, I think they did say something. They did say some things. They did, as I looked at them, they did say some things, and I maybe said some things, but I don't remember because I waited too long to talk about the scenario. Shit, but I almost forgot about that part. Okay, but then, so after I had called my mom, and then the limousine showed up, then all of a sudden, my mom, basically left the scenario on a motorcycle. This was hilarious because I was like watching her, and she was just like doing all these impossible like maneuvers and shit, and I'm thinking, I was so afraid that she was gonna wreck. And in real life, if somebody did that, I mean, they would totally wreck. But the aliens, they're funny, man. They're like, they're like so cool how they create things. And the motorcycle, trying to remember what kind of style it was or whatever. Well, it was like more of a sport bike than like a cruiser or whatever. It was more of a sport one, but it was just so funny because she, like I say, she left the scenario, and that was the end of the scenario. But I was watching her, and I was just like, man, I hope you stay, I was like thinking in my head, I hope she's, stays safe and doesn't wreck, because she was doing all these impossible things. But then at the end, as far as I remember, she did, she parked it and like stood up. I mean, she never did wreck or anything. But as I was watching her, leave the scenario and go that way or whatever into the, well, I guess it kind of would have been past, in some grassy area past where the triplex was or whatever. And basically that was the end of the scenario. But the cool thing was just like going in the back door, and then there was like only like 8 yards of grass, and then boom, this big old commercial business office building. And it was many stories up there. I don't know, at least, 15 stories maybe, or bigger. But it was pretty cool. So that was one cool scenario I had on Saturday morning. And like I say, the aliens put that woman that I had just saw at Walmart in the scenario. And, but, as the cop. But, let me see if I'm breaking into my, I don't know how long I've been talking. Okay, blow up. Okay, shit, okay. Patty! Sadie! Okay, I said I'd talk about that one experience. And I know I had typed it all out at work so I wouldn't forget any details. And then I don't know what the hell I did with it. I think I accidentally went out of it, and then I didn't, print it out or whatever. I don't know. I can't keep up with shit like that. So hopefully I won't forget anything when I talk about the other experience, but I guess I'll do that in a 20-minute video. Okay, so, oh yeah. Okay, the scenario also build, because I'm probably only going to have time to talk about 2 more, or the video is going to get too long. Okay, so, I was asking the aliens, well, I mean, no, I wasn't. I was asking, I was asking for an experience the other day from Joel a couple days ago. And I wasn't saying for it to be sexual or anything, but he made it sexual. A lot of things he'll do, he'll just put all this like sexual things in front of me. And, you know, it's not like an actual, what do you call it? Experience where I'm walking around in the experience. He'll show me something. But it was sexual. Okay, so anyway, okay, my grandma. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So then I was okay, so this was when was this? About a week and a half ago. I was asking for my grandma to show up in my scenario. And I mean, like, I know it's kind of sad, but a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, my mom showed up and blah, 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 blah. And, well, I mean, most of the, I can't say that it's 100% always aliens, but 9 times out of 10, I'll just say 9 times out of 10, it's them putting a replica for you. And of course, that person's going to wake up and be like, oh, my mom showed up, my dead mom, you know, and said hi to me or whatever. But 9 times out of 10, it's not really them. Because so anyway, I was like asking for my grandma, and I have a picture of her right there. I was asking for my grandma to show up in one of my dreams or whatever. And oh man. Okay, so this is how the scenario started. The aliens gave me. I was in. This is kind of funny because in the house that I was in, 50% of it was like my grandma's old house. And then 50% of it was like, you know, where my mom lives right now, her house. 50-50. And it was, the kitchen was 5 times bigger. The living room was, dining room was, I mean, five times bigger. And, you know, basically, so we were walking around. I was walking around my grandma's house. My mom was there, my stepdad, my brother, my sister, my uncle. There could have been a couple other people, relatives. And basically, this part is funny because I was watching my mom and my grandma make homemade cashew chicken. And it was like all nice and breaded and deep fried and stuff. And I actually sat down to eat it and everything. We all sat down at the big dining room table. And I was afraid that it may have gluten in it and stuff. But I still ate it and everything. And I don't remember getting any symptoms and stuff under my scenario. But anyway, so now the aliens are putting all this gluten themes in my scenarios. I don't know why they never did try to tell me to stop eating gluten. Well, I guess they figured I would be smart enough to know to stop eating it when they told me, or when my naturopathic doctor said that I couldn't tolerate gluten anymore when she gave me a saliva test. I guess it tested for antibodies or something, I don't know. It tested for that gliadin or something like that. Tolerance or something like that. But anyway, so now the aliens still make me eat a lot in my scenarios where I can taste the food and everything, except now they put it in there where I'm worried that it's gluten or not gluten or whatever. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, so this was a fun scenario, lucid dream, out-of-body experience, virtual reality experience, that it's almost like we were having a little dinner, almost like a Thanksgiving dinner, except it wasn't Thanksgiving, it was just a get-together a cashew chicken get together. And the funny thing was, okay, hold on. The funny thing is, and I did have previous thoughts of that, recently before this experience, how my mom, because I did just, it was pretty recent, because I think we were at the bookstore and I was like, Mom, don't you remember how you made that really good cashew chicken? And it took you all day to make it. And it turned out good. My mom can cook if she sets her mind to it. Otherwise, she's never really been that good of a cook. But, so the aliens put that in the scenario because back when we were like, I was probably 13 when she made that homemade cashew chicken in real life. But it took her all day and it tasted, she said it was for my sister's birthday and it may have been. But yeah, so in the scenario, the aliens put that in the scenario where my grandma and my mom were making cashew chicken. And it was just perfect. It was breaded, it was perfect. And the oyster sauce was perfect. But this is the funny part of the scenario. My grandmother was standing at the sink in the kitchen. This is all under the scenario. And in real life, the kitchen would have been in her old house. The way her kitchen was set up, the sink was over here, and so under the scenario, the sink was over here, and she was standing over there, and she had this like orangey peachy windbreaker on, this big expensive looking sport windbreaker on, and she looked over at me and gave me, this is my grandma. She gave me a funny look, and she was kind of mad. Not at me, but she was just mad. Like, I gotta make 5 more payments of $75 on this jacket. And that wouldn't be like my grandma at all because she would never spend that much on a windbreaker jacket. But it was really nice and everything. And it was kind of long. And it was like peachy, orangey color. And it was like a windbreaker, like brand new and everything. But the funny thing is, in the scenario, she was, now in real life, I think she maybe was, in real life, I think she maybe was 5'7", maybe 5'6", when she was much younger. But she died at 92 and a half. All the times I've known her, she was probably 5 foot to 5'2" or whatever, because when you get older, you shrink. I don't know if she was really that tall when she was younger or not, but I don't know if she shrinked that much, 7 inches. I don't know, but I know for quite some time, she was 5 foot, because she was 92 and a half when she died. But I can't remember how tall she was, back when I was like 4 years old. And she would pick me up and then take me to Kansas City or whatever. But I don't know why I want to say maybe when she was younger she was 5'7", but she may not have been that tall, I don't know. Maybe 5'6". But in the scenario she only looked about, I would say about like 73, and she was about 5'7" or 5'6", 5'6", 5'7". And like she had this funny look on her face too, like, dramatic, like she was mad that she still had to make like 5 more payments of like $75 for this windbreaker jacket. And then she started walking over to this part of the kitchen, and she was starting to prepare the cashew chicken. And that whole scenario lasted hours, like probably 3 or 4 hours. Of course, once I talk about it in 3D, I could talk about it in, 20 or 30 minutes. But that was a fun little scenario. And this other scenario, oh my God, I'll try to talk about it real quick. Okay, I think I have time. And then that other one, I'll still have to make like a 15-minute video of that one, because that one was really cool too. That was virtual reality and out-of-body experience where I went up and opened the front door, but it was pretty cool. The aliens had given me a cat. But I'll talk about that one in like a 17-minute video. I could probably talk about it in about 17 minutes. Patty! Cesar has diabetes. Patty has hyperthyroid. But apparently it's not going to kill her fast like it did Bobby. And I thought it was interesting when I did my research. It said that real slender cats, it tends to make them die really fast. And Bobby was that kind of cat. He was that real skinny, slender breed of cat. He was part Manx. And he was always a very slender, skinny cat all of his life. And Patty's not that type of cat. And of course, Patty, I probably found out she had hyperthyroid in more of the medium stages than the very late stages, like Bobby. But okay, so this other scenario, shit, let me see. See if I can. Okay, so this was like a lucid dream, out of body experience, virtual reality experience. There's all those three things. 2, out of body, virtual reality, lucid dream. Okay, so basically, I don't know how long I've been talking. Okay, okay, sorry. Basically, I was in downtown, my town I am now. I was downtown. And I started walking around in a parking lot. The aliens have created this scenario for me many, many, many times. I started off, okay, it was like I was coming from a college class or something. But I can't remember if the aliens actually told me that or not. But it was like I was coming from a college class. And so I kept walking around campus, walking through the campus buildings, started coming to the parking lots and kept walking around the parking lots. And by the way, under this scenario, it was kind of cloudy. This scenario, I was outdoors, it was cloudy. It was not sunny. And almost kind of like late evening or something. Kind of like dusk, but maybe not quite dusk. And so I was walking around, and I kept seeing, all these buildings, I walked around for a long time, looking for my car, which is a Honda Civic. So basically, my car was lost, and I couldn't find my car. The aliens have given me this type of scenario many, many, many times. Okay, so then, as I kept walking around, and most of the parking lots were all pretty much empty. Yeah, which is kind of funny. I mean, not completely. Most of them, you would just see like 2 or 3 cars. Most of them were pretty empty, except the post office building. Okay, so anyway, so it's like I was coming from a college campus course or whatever, and I went outside and started looking for my car. So and here's the big parking lot, and I started walking around the parking lot, and I couldn't find it. Straight ahead, this was kind of funny because straight ahead was where I worked, but it was like a post office. It was more like a post office. And the aliens did tell me that it was a post office. And it was like I worked there, but in real life I don't work at a post office. But the aliens kind of copied that because I know where the post office is, the main one. And so the aliens kind of copied that from my brain, except they just made it a post office where I worked. And so anyway, over to the left was all the parking spots. And this time, this parking lot was all filled up. But all those campus ones were not. And so like anyway, it was like I worked there at the post office, which is weird because in real life I don't. But in the scenario, the aliens was making me think that I worked there or whatever. Okay, so and then over to the left, I was still looking for my car. Over to the left was, at least 20 or at least 12 parking spots. and every single one was taken. For some reason, I guess I was off that day. The aliens didn't tell me, but I wasn't working that day under the scenario. Okay, so all the parking spots were taken, and then I looked, I cocked my head, and what I saw was, this is kind of funny, because what I saw was a Chevrolet Nova. And that is what I had. It's kind of funny. The aliens had put all the cars, yeah, as a matter of fact, all the cars I've ever owned in this scenario, except one. Or, well, except for the car I have now, and then that one. It's kind of funny. So, and I looked at the Chevrolet Nova, and I'm like, I mean, like, I know that was my car, but that was my car back, 20-something years ago. I was looking for my Honda Civic. So anyway, I saw that Chevrolet Nova. So that was kind of funny. Because it was kind of like my car. It was like exact replica of the car, you know what I mean? In the scenario, it was kind of like my car, but I knew it wasn't my car. And, okay, so that was, after I walked around the post office, parking lot, and saw the Chevrolet Nova, I knew that, wasn't my car, so then I started coming back over this direction and started going into another parking lot, looking around. Okay, and this time, this is kind of funny, but it almost seemed like all of a sudden I was at the front, the small little parking lot at the front of, what's that? What was that rental car place called? Avis. I think it was called Avis. Now I realize the aliens, they tried to copy the exact replica of my downtown that the town that I lived. They kind of tried to copy the exact replica. They tried to copy, the college campus and stuff. It wasn't exact, but that's what they tried to copy. So the third parking lot, and this is getting towards the end of the scenario, the third parking lot, I came back this direction from the post office, was there. Here's the college campus. And then the big parking lot, and buildings, and then straight ahead was where I worked at the post office. And then here was the parking lot. And then I started walking back towards this direction, and over here was another parking lot, a very small parking lot. And now that I think about it, the aliens copied that little parking lot, because I used to rent cars from that Avis place way over there in that other part of town, or down Sunshine Street or whatever. Yeah, now that I realize that, because Avis is like a little bitty building and then a little bitty teeny tiny parking lot, and then the rental cars are like over here and over here. The aliens copied that. Well, I haven't thought about that in millions of years, that Avis parking lot. But in the scenario, that's what they tried to copy. Okay, and you're not going to believe what I saw. So, I saw... Okay, so anyway, this is getting towards the end of the scenario. So, I'm walking around this small parking lot, which almost seems like Avis parking lot. And, there was an Oldsmobile Cutlass, 1980, what was mine, 1984 or 1988? Shit, I can't remember. It was 1988, I think. Yeah, I think it was 1988. I had an Oldsmobile Cutlass when I moved to Kansas City. I liked that car. It was a gray Oldsmobile Cutlass. And, in real life. Okay, in the scenario, when I looked at the car, well, the aliens were still basically trying to tell me, here's your car. They were trying to tell me that was my car, when they created the scenario for me. And so when I saw the Oldsmobile Cutlass, and by the way, okay, it was an Oldsmobile Cutlass. It was, the front part was this way, like this. The front part was, like this. And, over here, I was standing in the parking lot. And I was looking at the Oldsmobile Cutlass, and the weird thing was, and under the scenario, it was like a brown color. It was like different colors of brown, and it was like, it was really odd. The body was really odd, or not the body. You know, it wasn't like normal paint. It was like mesh. There was like a lot of like brown meshy stuff, like all over the car. And by the way, it still looked like it was like brand new, in excellent condition, even though it was a 1988. But there was all this like brown mesh looking stuff, you know, on the where the paint should have been. And still, anyway, under the scenario, the aliens were actually they programmed for me to think, like, here's your car. They were trying to tell me that was my car. And I was like, I'm thinking, that's not my car. That was one I had, you know, I was thinking, that was one of my old cars that I had. So, anyway, here's the funny part. I don't know if the alien, I think, because sometimes under the scenario, the aliens are communicating to me, and it almost seemed like, I almost forgot this part, but it almost seemed like the alien was communicating to me under the scenario and telling me, go up and try to open the door. And so I did, and that's not the first time they've done that stuff with a car, to go up and open the door. Okay, so I had my keys with me to my Honda Civic, and I went up, and it worked. My Honda Civic key worked to the stupid Oldsmobile Cutlass. That they're trying to tell me that that was my car, and I knew that wasn't my car. But like I say, it was like intricate. I mean, it was complete, perfect condition with intricate little weird details of, it wasn't like, you know, flat paint. It was all this like mesh. Like it was like mesh kind of paint. And it was like browns, different colors of browns, like some darker browns, but it was in like perfect 100%, like almost like brand new condition. It was a 1988 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. And so anyway, this is the funny part. So like I say, because I remember something told me, like, okay, try to open the door. And so I got my keys, and I put the key in, and it opened. And the lock opened, and I thought that was the weirdest thing because I knew that that wasn't my car. But the funny thing is, the lock, here's how the lock was. It was like round, and this white little plastic thing in the middle. Okay, it was like round, and a little white plastic half moon, you know, disc or whatever in the middle. And then when I opened it, the little thing, the little disc, you know, like turned. It was like white, and then the disc was like another color of white, you know. And then when I turned it, that's how the lock was. I'm trying to think where the aliens got that from. And then it turned, and it opened. And I was just confused, and I was just debating, should I get in there and really take off with it? You know, and that was the end of the scenario. I didn't know if I should really try to get in there and drive or not. But I never did. That was the end of the scenario. But now that I think about it, I think the alien had communicated those two things while I was under the scenario. Like direct communication when I was under the scenario. They do that sometimes. You know, will directly like communicate to me or whatever. But yeah, that was really weird. The lock was just really weird, and but the key worked, which made no sense. Because I was looking for my Honda Civic, and I never did find my Honda Civic. And the other car that they did not put in the scenario was my Mustang. But it was just funny how they put the Nova, the 1978 Nova. I didn't drive it long, but it was a 1978 Nova stick shift that I drove for about a year or two. And they put that in my scenario, and then the Oldsmobile Cutlass. And like I say, it was very odd looking, brand new condition, but just instead of smooth brown, like light brown, medium brown, dark brown paint, or the details, what's that called? You know, little, what do you call the little stuff that's not the paint? You know, panels or whatever. Instead of just well, no, there was still some solid panels as far as I remember, but instead of smooth paint, it was mesh. It was weird. It was like mesh, and I don't know where the aliens got that idea. But like under my scenario, I mean, it was like, it was, what's that word? I mean, it was intricate. It was lavish in my scenario. But like I say, I was, oh yeah. By the way, I was, thinking about driving off with it and stuff, but I kept thinking, aren't I going to get in trouble for stealing a car? I was thinking that in the scenario. And I never did take off with it. I never did drive off, and I never found my Honda Civic either. But the aliens give me that scenario all the time, where I'm lost in a parking lot trying to find my car. Okay, that other scenario... Oh, I don't know how long I've been talking. I guess I could talk about the other one, but I don't know how long. Okay, I probably don't even have time anyway. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off now. Sazy! Gee, where you at? How come I can't... Is that... Where you at, Cesar? Oh, there you are. Cesar! There he is. Got a flea, baby? I'll get that off.